True Underdog. Unleash the power within.
Jayson Waller here, True Underdog. Hey, first of all, if you're listening to the podcast, you're a follower, you're a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe now. Damn it, click the YouTube channel, subscribe, go to iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. I assure you, on our episodes, you're going to catch a nugget. We're going to get you off your butt. You're going to get out there and do something great. We want to be a part of your success and get you motivated here on the show. So make sure you stay tuned and make sure you hit the subscribe button. Today's episode is going to be epic. I've got one of my best friends here, NFL great kicker for the Detroit Lions, Matt Prater. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I'm excited to have you because not only, and I don't know if the listeners and viewers know, that you hold the record for longest field goal in an NFL game at 64 yards. That record was held for a long time by Dempsey. You broke that record. I don't know if it'll ever be broken, but that's super exciting to have you on here to talk about some of that and some of the things that you've had to deal with growing up as a child in Florida and with three brothers and all these things that we're going to get into. First of all, I want to let everyone know we're dressed because we're getting ready to go golfing, right? How do you think you'll score today?
I don't know. We do the scramble. I think we'll do all right. As long as I'm not in your team, I'll probably win.
Oh, you're probably right. So, our team won last time.
Right.
But, so for everybody out there, hey, look, I got my purple on. He's got his pink on. We're trying to look fly before we go golfing. Thank God we get to do that today. So let's start by doing this. You're a kicker for the Lions. How long have you been here with the Lions?
This will be 6 years.
6 years. And how long ago did you join the NFL?
14 years ago.
14 years. That's a big deal because a lot of people don't play that long.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy how fast it's gone by, but now it's looking back, I'm one of the old guys in the locker room. So it's kind of weird, but, I'm still learning and, trying to make the best of it.
And a lot of the team, with everything going on right now, you guys have been doing team meetings. Things seem to be going well during COVID right now?
Yeah. Everything's been a little different, obviously, with COVID and everything else going on, but everything's been virtual. So we've been Zoom meetings and, one thing we've been working out on our own and kind of expected to, as soon as we get back to perform at a high level, and I'm itching, I'm ready to get back in there. I'm excited.
I don't know if fans out there know this, but I'm here to tell you, I've been Matt's good friend for 2 years. I've gained about 12 pounds in 2 years. You've lost like 30, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know, 25 pounds.
You look great. You're in the best shape of your life.
I don't know about best shape of my life, but I definitely feel a lot better than I did the last few years, so I'm excited.
What are you down to now, like 190?
190, yeah,
oh, wow.
Instead of, a different 217, I think, was the heaviest I got, so that wasn't a good look for me, but hopefully it'll translate and I'll kick better on the field too.
So listen, you're here on the Lions organization. I'm a diehard Lions fan, obviously, got season tickets, and hopefully the NFL gets to play this year with or without fans. Hopefully you guys get to play and we get to see something. But let's start. You weren't always in the NFL, obviously, and you had a career in soccer as a kid. Let's talk about that process growing up. Where did you grow up at, Matt?
I grew up in Fort Myers. I'm the second of four boys. Grew up on a dirt road. We were fortunate it had some, big...
Like a dirt road with like 12 people in the city, dirt road? Or?
No, not that small a city, but we're out a little bit where, my house backed up to like 10 acres of just woods. There's a canal back there. So it was definitely like not farmish, but kind of
country
out there,
living,
boonies a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. We got to do a lot of, fishing and hanging out outside all the time, especially in Florida. It was good. Play sports year round. So we were always
sports
outside.
Were you playing year round back then when you were a kid growing up?
Soccer, baseball, football. My older brother kind of dictated what we played at the time, and we were always outside active. He used to force me. We had this game called the baseball game, which we played all the time, and we drew a home plate out of chalk against the garage, and then one guy would pitch, the other guy would hit, and he would always cheat and win, and it was good times, though, looking back.
So I've got to meet, your brother Mike. Love that guy. I guess I saw a story recently where he used to beat you up as a kid all the time. So if you beat him, you got beat up. And if you lost to him, you got beat up. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was always a lose-lose where if I didn't feel like playing whatever, he'd beat me up and make me play. But then if I played him and he beat me, he would just tell me how bad I sucked. But then if I beat him, he would beat me up. And it was always a lose-lose.
Yeah, that's funny. So grew up in the boonies and you're playing sports. And, you're playing soccer, I know, through high school. When did you decide you actually wanted to start kicking for football?
I don't know if you remember the Gramatica brothers, but on a soccer team, we played competitive soccer. The youngest brother, Santiago, was on my soccer team. So when the two older boys, Martin and Bill, got into kicking, my dad's like, shoot, you guys can, of us four boys, you guys can kick the soccer ball pretty well. Why don't you try it? So that I played 1 year Pop Warner, I think, when I was 11. Played kicker and safety, and then I went from being like one of the better players in soccer and baseball to the kicker. So I didn't really like that very much, and didn't go back to it the next year. I never quit anything, sport-wise. So then got back into it basically later in high school.
And in high school, so junior, senior year, you decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and try to join the football team instead of basketball and start kicking?
Right. Yeah. I played soccer and I got burnt out. I didn't want to go back and then started kicking again. I was a late bloomer, so I grew kind of late. And all of a sudden, one day I went out kicking and, I could hit a 60-yarder going into my senior year. My dad's like, shoot, this is not normal. And he kind of steered me in that direction and got me working at it, and went to one kicking camp, learned a little bit, just enough, the basics. And then, that everything now is history. But he got me in a routine of, basically teaching me, work ethic. And, just because you have the talent doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. You've got to work at everything you do and try to, make yourself better than your competition. And the only way to do that is through hard work. So we would be out kicking a couple times a week, whether it was raining or whatever else, in Florida could be going on. We were out there kicking and working out no matter what.
So, I'm here to tell you, and for those that don't know, your workout ethic is tough. Like you go out there, you work out no matter what. You're out kicking at the high school fields right now in the off season all the time. You're working with other people trying to better them, kickers from college, kickers on the team. You're doing all the good things out there to really not only stay sharp in your game, but you've got that work ethic you said from your dad at an early age, where you mentioned you don't quit anything. So obviously I can tell you have that instilled in you. You don't like to quit. And I want the listeners and viewers to understand, you don't need anything special. You mentioned hard work outdoes talent. You had talent, but you were raw, right?
Right.
And you had this work ethic that people need to be able to tune into, that, if you stay working at something, you can get a lot better at it. So you learned that from your dad. You're working at that. I'm assuming your senior year in high school was pretty good.
Yeah, real good.
Yeah.
I think we went 14 for 16. Played some big games. We lost in the semifinals of states, but yeah, it was fun. Just the recruiting process coming out of nowhere. And we, fortunate enough, we had some other guys on the team that were really good getting recruited, so it opened, some doors for me. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and kind of got to showcase myself a little bit and, kick at a high level.
Where'd you go to college?
Went to UCF.
Oh, who else went to UCF that was really good?
Man, we got tons of guys.
I know,
yeah.
but I want to hear you're a big fan. So
we don't put out as many guys as some other schools, but we don't put out busts.
Right.
Most of our guys, anyone that comes from UCF and plays in the league, they're always studs. So
look at you representing. I love that. And I'm sure those guys love it too. So you go to college and you have a great college career. What's the longest field goal you kicked in college?
It was actually my first game as a true freshman at Penn State. I think I just turned 18 going up there. I was a little kid playing with basically men. And I think it was a 53-yarder, first game.
In college.
Yep.
That's long for college. They don't even really attempt those anymore.
Yeah, some guys do. We didn't kick a ton of 50-yarders in school though. I think I was something like 3 for 4 in the 4 years, and just happened to have won the first game.
So then the process starts to join the NFL. You weren't drafted. What was that like? You have a great college career. Your work ethic is phenomenal. You're busting your butt. You got some talent that you continued to develop. We've talked about it before. Like, you had this leg strength that was awesome. You just had to learn to be accurate, and you had to learn to be consistent. And that's all on discipline and work ethic. So you go into the NFL process undrafted. What's that look like? Because right there's kind of an underdog story. You hear most people that are successful get drafted. The undrafted folks, kickers, special teams, doesn't matter. They still struggle to get out there. What was that like?
It was obviously a little tough, but looking back, it was definitely the right move. I wouldn't have drafted myself either, but I was just so raw, and I didn't know. I used to think go out and, kickoffs, I could just kick it as hard as I could, and it would more than likely go through the back of the end zone. And field goals, I kind of had the same approach. I was so raw and didn't know really what I was doing. I would go out and just, kick it as hard as I could and hope it would stay straight. And then there's so many minor details. Like, I didn't know you're not supposed to watch the snap as a kicker. You're watching the holder's hand on the spot come up, and that's when you go for the timing. And I didn't know a lot of little technique issues that can help you. Even if it helps you make one kick more in a season, that's a big improvement. So I was just so raw and had so much to learn. And that's why I was fortunate. And I was brought in to not even really compete with Jason Hansen, who was here forever. To this day, the best kicker I've ever worked with or kicked with. But it was awesome for me coming in here and kind of picking his brain. He was awesome to work with. And he taught me so much just in that one off season of being here. And I got to play in a few preseason games, had a pretty successful preseason. And that's how I got connected with my agent too. The head coach, Rod Marinelli at the time, and the punter, Nick Harris, had my agent. And I didn't have an agent coming out of college. And they said, "Dan, you should talk to this kid. He's talented. He's definitely not going to make the team here because we have arguably a Hall of Fame kicker here who's not going anywhere." So, yeah, now 14 years later, still with the same agent and still kicking.
Yeah, loyalty and consistency. So, undrafted, you came to Detroit first. That was your first home.
Right.
Learning from Hanson, who you gave kudos to, one of the best ever. So, props to Hanson. And then you get the agent, and then you go to what team?
Kind of bounced around a bit. Then I ended up signing with Miami. After I signed there, the coach left, went to Alabama. A new coach, Cam Cameron, comes in, signs a veteran kicker, guarantees him some money. And it's not like I had a ton of options at the time to ask to be cut, to try to go somewhere else to compete. But they kept me around, and then just did kickoffs basically in the off season and going into camp. They cut me. The Falcons signed me. Then I think 2 days after I was released, kicked the last preseason game there, win the job, have a couple decent games, and then a really bad game. So they cut me, and then I'm back home. Phone's not ringing. I think Tampa brought me in for a workout.
Stop there. Let's talk about that. So, undrafted, go to the Lions, learn from one of the greatest. You get an agent, you bounce around a couple teams, you get to Miami, new coach, wants experience over raw, signs the veteran, gets him some money. You're bouncing around, you get signed by Atlanta, you do okay, you have one really horrific game, right? Let's talk about that game. Do you remember that game?
I remember it like yesterday.
Let's talk about that.
It was embarrassing looking back.
Let's talk about it. What happened?
Well, kicked off really well, but then we go down. It was at Jacksonville. I think it was a 46-yarder from the left hash. Hit it a little fat, so it had almost the screwball type, power fade, some guys call it. Miss it wide right. So then we go coming back. We score. I think we're losing 10-7 or 14-7. I don't remember the exact score, but then we go down, and I think it was a 31-yard field goal from the right hash. Missed that one. So now I'm 0 for 2. We end up losing, and a big reason why was because of my kicking. And so the next morning, I'll never forget this too, the coach was Petrino, who ended up at Louisville, Arkansas, who I don't know if he's coaching anywhere now. But so they cut me, and I kind of figured I was going to be cut just because I had such a bad day. But I remember walking up, you make your rounds, thank the coaches for the opportunity. And I remember walking by his office, and I was going to go say, thanks for the opportunity. He saw me coming and just closed the door. So that was an experience to remember. But,
so you're still a young man here, right? This is like
I think I was 22 at the time.
So really your first year all this happened.
Yeah, second year.
Second year, sorry.
Yeah.
So think about this. You're catapulting to all these teams. The pressure you have in an NFL game, people I don't think understand unless they play the game. Me and you have talked about it. I mean, you are as cool as it gets for game-winning field goals. You handle the pressure like nobody's business. Everybody that knows your stats and who you are and sees you kick, they know that when it's game time, you're as close as it gets, you don't miss. But this is early in your career. And I'm a big preacher in our podcast and in business and in life and in sports that you can't be successful till you fail because you don't know what success looks like. Till you fail. You can be like, I'm great. Well, you're not great until you actually have to overcome something. So here you are, year 2, bounced around, and then pretty much thrown like you're done. The coach even closes the door. So pissed that you lost the game, closes the door. That feeling inside, what was that? What did you feel inside?
I was more disappointed than anything, and not anyone else, just myself, because I knew I should have played better or made
Did that
those kicks.
disappointment turn into motivation?
Yeah, I went. From then I remember going back to Fort Myers, going from being an NFL player to back living at my parents' house, and I can't sit around not doing anything. I actually was working out in the morning. I picked up a job doing valet parking and being a bellman at a resort. And then a few weeks goes by, and the Miami Dolphins called back and want to sign me to the practice squad because we were still kicking off from the 30 at that point. And the one thing that got me into the league brought me back into the league, and that was kickoffs. And so I went and, did kickoffs on the practice squad for, I don't know, it seemed like a long time, but I guess it was maybe 5 to 7 weeks. And then there's a few weeks left in the season. Denver Broncos called, and claimed me off the practice squad. So that's how I ended up in Denver. Elam was the kicker, and I think I was a security type signing because his contract was expiring, and they wanted to re-sign him, but I think he wanted more money than they were willing to pay. So they used me as the leverage. They kept me. He signed with Atlanta and had a few more good years there before he retired. Then ended up competing that next offseason in Denver for the field goal job. And Garrett Hartley, who kicked for the Saints, was my competition. They brought him in, and I was grinding, working, kicking, and trying to learn as much as I could. I was still raw learning, but they cut him before camp just because I think I kind of showed that I was definitely option A.
So you took that failure, that bad game. First of all, this is the underdog story we talk about. You have a great college career, but as special teams, we all know it's hard to get drafted as special teams in the NFL. And if you've got all these colleges that got kickers or punters, it's even harder to make a team. You make a team, you're behind a great one, you learn, you bounce around, all these things going on, one bad game, ouch. You're at home. You went from living on a dirt road at mom and dad's house, playing sports, getting beat up by your brothers, playing all these sports, right? To NFL kicker, everyone's probably like, wow, to I'm back home. That feeling also, not only getting cut, but then even forward to I'm back home, probably felt like major failure.
Definitely major failure. And like I said, disappointing and almost embarrassing, because you work so hard to make it to that level or that point in your career. You think finally, I've made it. And it was short-lived. And then, go grind, work hard, and, then end up in Denver, try to make the best of it and learn from those mistakes. And when you experience failure, it's a motivating factor to me is I never want to experience that again. That is the worst feeling ever, especially playing sports. If you're the reason, like being competitive, if you're the reason that your entire team loses a game because of your, 3 seconds on the field, that's the worst feeling ever. Not only for yourself, but for your team as well.
Yeah, and then you guys catch a lot of slack from fans. I mean, I can only imagine the verbal assault or abuse that comes. You lost the game, Prater, right? And that makes it worse, right? It's salt on a wound. They forget, hey, you're a human that has a family and you're doing the best you can, and everyone makes mistakes. Sometimes someone misses the bucket in basketball. Sometimes someone throws the pick. Kickers are entitled to make mistakes, but this mistake cost you your job, cost you at the point your career, your hopes, your dreams were all in the toilet bowl. But you got motivated, had a second opportunity, made the best of it, get to Denver, earn the job because of motivation and overcoming. A lot of people that get in that kind of point, Prater, and we've talked about this before, in life and business, when it gets tough, a lot of people quit. A lot of people just make excuses and that's it. I'm not meant for this. I got a black cloud following me. It's always raining on me. They find reasons to not succeed. I love that you sit here and, we're living through this. We're envisioning what's going on and trying to understand, holy crap, you were here and then bam, right back here. That's, embarrassing, disappointed, bothered, all of those feelings inside. You said motivated you. You get to Denver. Let's talk about Denver, right? Because again, you had a great career at Denver and you broke a record. So let's talk about those few years in Denver. How did it go? You start that next year. What happens?
It was awesome. Coach Shanahan was the coach at the time. Scott O'Brien was the special teams coach. A little bit more of old school type coaches. So it was awesome getting to learn from them. And then after my first full year doing both kickoffs and field goals, going to the offseason, and Coach Shanahan, loses his job along with the rest of the coaches for the most part. So we hired Josh McDaniels from New England. And Mike Prater, who was actually a coach that wanted to sign me. He was with the Chiefs before, and he actually wanted to sign me there. So he came in, got to learn a ton from him, kind of fine-tuned techniques and taught me a lot more. And I had, 2 pretty good years with those guys. And then the second year with McDaniels, he loses his job. But for me, it was just always learning and trying to get better, whether it's working out. Like Tuesday is our off day during the season. And I used to go in, and that would be an extra lift day and, cold tubs and all that good stuff. But the second year, Coach McDaniels gets fired. And then uncertainty there. I think I got a tender pick, instead of getting a long-term deal. And I was a little disappointed with that. Talked about it, and they said, well, you sign this tender, we'll work out an extension. Have a good year. Next year, go back in, get a higher tender. And a little disappointed again. All right, sign it. We're going to get the deal done. Have another pretty good year. Next year, franchise tagged. So
kicker being franchise tag's
Right.
rare too, but I remember that.
yeah, but at the time it was actually cheaper for the club
Right.
to use
It's not
that.
like it is today.
Right. With the it was the leverage they could use on me. So that was disappointing, and didn't sign that one. And then we got a deal done right before the deadline, and I think I had a pretty good year that year. I think it was a year with Tebow when we had all those crazy game winners and
Yeah.
different kicks at the end of the games. And then the next off season is when that was like the beginning of some of my off the field issues.
So let's talk about the success in Denver first, because I do want to get to the other part. In Denver, your first few years, you had Tebow, and we've talked about this offline. Like you said, he was a great motivator. He got that locker room fired up, and you believe that's important in sports and in life. Like you talked about that. Explain what would happen, because, and I'm not throwing Tebow under the bus, but talent-wise, and I'm the one saying this, not you, he wasn't as good as a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL. But verbally and as a leader, what was that like?
He was a guy that when he spoke to the team, he wasn't always the most vocal, but when he did speak to the team and needed guys to rally around him, he had that gift where he'd give you goosebumps or the chills. And if he spoke to the team the night before the game, a lot of guys would feel so like we wanted to go play right then and there.
Yeah.
He just had that gift. And then in the crunch time, late in the game, fourth quarters, part of the reason we had all those crazy comebacks and game-winning drives and game-winning kicks is just because of his passion and leadership. That's when he really kicked it up a notch and got things going.
Sounds like he should be a coach. Like, hey, Tebow, get out there, get a coaching job, brother. That'd be good
Right.
for him.
And that's why I think it's a big reason why he's successful, and not only with football and baseball, just every aspect of life, just because of that gift he has. And he does motivational speaking with churches and all sorts of things.
So then you guys are doing that. So you get the contracts you want. You get a couple contracts that you're like, I'm disappointed, but here's what. You didn't make public issues about it. You went out there and still worked hard. You still did your job, and then you finally got a contract that was fair, and you stayed and you wanted the team. I know how passionate you are about winning. So you went to the Super Bowl, right? You played with Peyton Manning. What was that like? Because you used to tell me get on the plane. What was that like with Peyton Manning?
Peyton was awesome. Every year, once he got to Denver, he would send out a mass text to the entire team. I probably have it in my phone somewhere. It's something I'll never delete, but just about how hard he was going to work and bring everybody with him. He held everyone accountable, and he knew when it was time to be serious and when it was time to be loose. But there were times he could get you fired up too, and he always led by example too. He was the first person in the building, last one to leave, and he brought work home with him. I think he converted a room in his house to just a film room. He kept his kids out of there and all that stuff. But he was all about winning. He had all those numbers and crazy records and stats, but at the end of the day, he only cared about winning. That was his deal. But
you made a comment to me that kind of stuck with me because as a fan, I've never been in the NFL, do any kind of structured sports. I like Tom Brady. I'm a Michigan guy, and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, two of the favorite, best quarterbacks I've got to see growing up. Some Joe Montana too, but they are a little different. And you always see, because Tom Brady's got all these Super Bowls and his leadership skills are probably top notch. But then I hear these things about Peyton. I'm like, man, I like this guy more. One thing you mentioned to me that stood out was if you guys lost and you were on a plane and people were cutting up, what would Peyton do?
He would get on guys quick. It wasn't okay to lose with Peyton. After a game, if we didn't win, if some guys were laughing, joking, hanging out on the plane, he would say, I don't know what everyone's laughing about because someone's probably going to lose their job tomorrow. We lost for a reason. No one should be happy. No one should be celebrating, and our job is to win. So he would hold guys accountable in that regard as well.
See, that's cool. And that's cool to know because a lot of fans, I don't think, know that really happened. They don't realize that you guys take this stuff personally because it is your job. It's how you guys provide for your families. This isn't just a soap opera or a game. This is a job. It is a game where it's entertainment. People watch it and they love it. But this is how you guys put food on your table. This is how you guys pay for your mortgages. You pay for the vehicles. You put your kids in college. This is your livelihood. And people sometimes don't realize that a win or a loss, a mistake in a bad game can cost you your job. And that's where I like to, especially when we talk to some of these athletes, like to share that with people that this is real. So let's talk about that. In Denver, you met your wife.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you've been married how long now?
Over 5 years.
Okay. And you guys fell in love pretty much first sight, started dating. I've heard some of the story.
Yeah, pretty quick. We met an ugly sweater party, and then from there a couple months went by because I actually had a girlfriend at the time when we met, and then we didn't talk for a bit, and then we both were single at the same time and ran into each other again at a Dierks Bentley concert, and then from there we hit it off, and yeah, it was pretty quick. I think we got engaged after 6 months of dating, had about a 1.5 year engagement, and yeah, now married over 5 years, got 2 beautiful kids, and I have an older daughter as well.
So I want to talk about that. So you have 2 younger kids. Pax is
4.
And Elle is
2.
That's right. So
Yep.
4 and 2. And Ava, your oldest daughter, is 13.
Yep.
And so you became a dad pretty young in the NFL while you were in Denver, I'm assuming.
Yep.
And I know that you weren't a part of Ava's life early on. There were some things going on. Let's talk about how important it was to you to be a part of Ava's life when you were in Denver, and how that kind of took its mold, because now you've got a beautiful family with you, your wife, and 3 children, 13, 4, and 2. But it wasn't like that. Those are other struggles that you had to overcome, and other times where it was tough on you personally. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it was tough with Ava. She was with her mom basically until she was 8 years old. So I've had her, almost 5 years, I guess. It's flown by. But it was tough because, I'd be in Colorado working and playing and all that good stuff, where I couldn't travel a lot during the year, and in the off season I tried to see her as much as I could, but it was always a struggle finding time and getting the time legally, because everything had to be documented. It was just tough. But about 5 years ago, her mom got married, has another daughter. She went through some tough times and was getting divorced, and her family actually reached out to us and helped us get sole custody of Ava. And now I can't believe I didn't have her the entire time. I wish I did, because I feel like I missed out on so many things and trying to make up for it now. But yeah, that was tough, just not being able to, tuck your kid in at night or pick her up from school, little things like that. All those things that I missed out. It's sad looking back that I missed on it. So now I'm trying to make the best of having her all the time.
And look, I'll say in the 2 years that I've been around you, you're a great father. What's really inspiring and cool that fans don't know is your wife and your kids, Ava included, because the younger ones, Pax is old enough to really get engaged. Elle isn't. Every time you're up for an extra point or a field goal, there's my dad and your wife. That's really cool that they support you that much and love what you do, because it's important to them to see you succeed. And it's important to you that they're supportive. So I think that it's just great. I've kind of been a part of it for 2 years, and our daughters are really good friends. They're like sisters. They love each other and fight all the time. So, but it's really cool to see how important it is. But that was another thing that you're dealing with your job. Hey, I want to be a part of my daughter's life. There's some things going on, and then finally it ends up working out. And so you get through that. You go to the Super Bowl. Now, we talked about, before, when did you break the NFL record? Was that the Super Bowl year?
Yep, same year.
So let's talk about that kick. So a lot of people don't know, the record before was 61?
63.
It was 63. And tell us the story of how that went down.
All right, so we're playing Tennessee. It's December, really, really freaking cold. I think it was 10 or 11 degrees. So we're actually getting smoked right now. We're losing. Tennessee's just pounding us. It's in Denver. We get the ball just before halftime. Peyton does bam, 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 a couple quick passes. I remember he throws an out to Tammy. He gets out of bounds. And we're running out there. Britton Colquitt, the punter, is also the holder. They say field goal. I knew it was going to be around, just over a 60-yard field goal. So we get out, and, Britton's very religious, doesn't cuss. So I remember getting down for the spot. He gets down, and he says, "Oh, shit, this is for the record." And I say to him as I'm taking my steps back, I go, "Why the hell would you tell me that right now? Right before we're about to kick this is for the record."
And this is before halftime, right?
Just before halftime. I think there's a couple seconds left on the clock.
And the coaches knew this was for the record. They're like, "Screw it, go do it."
I don't think anybody knew until we got out there and actually got the spot.
Right.
And so we go out there, and on that kick, you just swing as hard as you can and hope it goes straight. And it was cold, and I hit it. I thought I didn't hit it that well. It barely made it over the crossbar, but it counts the same, so I'll take it. But I remember Britton, as soon as I hit it, Britton starts jumping on my back. He's like, "Dude, you got it." And we're sitting, and then when I see the refs, put their hands up, I blacked out. On any big kick like that or game winner, I black out and just go crazy, celebrate. And I have this same stupid celebration every time. I just put my hands out. I don't even know where that came from.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was cool. It was crazy though. Then we went into halftime. We're still losing, but you'd have thought that we just won the Super Bowl or something because everybody in the locker room was going nuts. I think after that we were losing 21-17, and then we came out after that at halftime. The second half, I think we ended up winning 42 or 49-21.
That's awesome. And so breaking that record, that's an NFL record, is a big deal. And you had a great season that year. You were Pro Bowl, but you guys went to the Super Bowl, and you only missed one field goal, right?
Yeah.
And you were second All-Pro, should have been first, arguably, but you were second.
Yep.
I'm arguing it, not you.
Yeah, no, I'll argue it too. I wasn't very happy with that decision. I don't understand.
You're a very competitive dude, by the way. Like I've been around a lot of people, and you hate losing, like very, very mad at losing. I know I talked about it recently on a Lions radio show that they were asking, hey, what's the morale of the team? And Prater with Patricia, I said, well, he's got a great relationship. In fact, 2 years ago when New England won the Super Bowl, you were on the phone with Matty P saying, man, that should have been us, or texting him. You were like, jacked. That's how much you want to win. It exuberates in you. So to be that competitive and then not be the first All-Pro, you were fired up about that.
Yeah, I was pretty salty about that one.
So you finish that year. There's another record you have that you're not proud of. Let's talk about the Super Bowl record that you have.
Yeah, this is a pretty good record. It's this is definitely a team effort. And,
thank the whole team, please.
No, so we played Seattle that year in the Super Bowl, and the record I have is that I'm the first kicker in Super Bowl history to not attempt or kick an extra point or field goal. Because when we did score, we were down so much at the time, we went for two. So I never was actually on the field to kick an extra point or field goal. I basically did two onside kicks that game. One before halftime was a little pop-up kick that got run back for a touchdown. That was my first play on the big stage. Get Percy Harvin coming right back straight at me. I was surprised I even touched him, but there was no way I was bringing him down. But yeah, so that's my Super Bowl record, which I don't know if that one's ever going to be broken. That's probably.
Hopefully it does, right? You don't want to be the only one
or
there.
I guess someone could tie it.
Yeah, someone could tie it, but it's yours.
Yeah.
All right, well then you talked about you had some off-field issues. So we've discussed, this underdog story of, odds are against you. You come on, you make an NFL roster. You get off from a bad game. You're back at your house eating potato chips and valeting cars. And then you get an opportunity to do it again. You use all of that experience of losing everything as your motivation. And look, all of a sudden you're having this great career, right? You're living the life. You're in the Super Bowl. Your team's winning. You're playing with Peyton Manning. I mean, you're doing great things, right? You made the Pro Bowl. You're an All-Pro. You broke the NFL record. Bam. Off-season issues. Let's talk about, because I know your worst regret in the NFL is that time period. Just tell us, you had some issues. What happened?
If you have any issues off the field, you get put in the program, and you're tested basically once or twice a week, year round. Doesn't matter if you go on vacation, you're still being tested. And obviously, I failed a couple of those and got suspended the year after the Super Bowl, where I had the best year of my career.
So let's stop there. Living life, you got comfortable, right?
Too comfortable.
I
think that was...
You weren't humbled again. And it happens to everybody, Prater. You're not the only one. I argue in my business all the time. We always have to take everything as a step, and every day is a playoff game. So even though our business might succeed this month in record-breaking sales, it's just a playoff game. We're not there yet. That mentality you had, but then you kind of got comfortable, and that happens sometimes. You get comfortable, maybe a little loose, have an off-field issue, and you get cut, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, got suspended. I think I'm one of the first kickers in NFL history also to be suspended by the league, which is not something I'm proud of at all. But
you know what's the best part is? You own it, right? You just shared with everybody, look, this was a bad period. I got comfortable. I dropped the ball. Guess what? You could have called it quits after then. You got suspended. They cut you. What happened?
Yeah. So,
after that, what happened?
Yep. End up being cut. A week goes by, then, I'm kicking, trying to stay in shape. And
right now you're feeling bad, right?
Yeah,
is it the same feeling as like getting kicked out of the NFL the first time? Similar? Like you lost everything again?
It was a different type of bad feeling. I can't even use like an adjective to describe it. It was such
one of the worst feelings you've ever had.
Just so low,
Yeah. Disappointed in yourself.
Yeah, beyond disappointed.
Ashamed.
Ashamed.
Yep.
Just
Felt like
awful.
you let everybody down, including yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, and you use that again as motivation.
Yeah, and I think the worst though was letting up not only myself down, but my brothers and my parents,
family.
You know, my dad especially.
Yeah.
So that was tough. And then, you know, I was fortunate enough, Detroit had some kicker issues.
By the way,
before
I
got
remember
here.
that year. I was at a Panthers game, and we went through like 2 or 3 kickers, and we could have won more games. I'm throwing my stuff like, they got to get a kicker. We can't kick anything.
Right. Yeah. So I think there were Detroit was 3 for 13 on field goals, and then they were a few teams actually called and were interested in signing me. And Detroit, I thought would be the best opportunity for me. And I knew Don Muehlbach, who's a stud, and so coming here to work with him. And I actually, my first game wasn't very good here when I first came in, and I hadn't been kicking much at all because I was in, you know, the 12-step place.
Yeah.
And first game, at Minnesota at the college stadium outdoors, and I think we had 3 50-yard attempts. I went 1 for 3, and we ended up winning the game. And I think that was probably my saving grace that we won. And then after that, kind of got in a rhythm, got in a roll, and now it's 6 years later. But yeah, my biggest regret definitely was, you know,
Getting comfortable and being stupid.
and, you know, kind of being young and, like you said, too
What
comfortable.
advice would you give to other people out there, and not just in sports? Because some of the athletes, and you've got, you know, Jack, the punter here for the Lions, is out in the lobby. You know, we're going golfing together. What advice would you give people when you get too comfortable? And it's this in life and business. You got to stay on the grind, right? You got to stay positive. You can't lose focus.
It's always, you know, it takes, like, what is it? It takes a wise man to learn from the mistakes of others. Mm-hmm. I've always been the kind of person that I have to learn the hard way. It has to happen to me. And sure enough, that happened.
And you did, though,
yeah,
right? So
for sure. It cost me a job and had to move my family. And yeah, it was tough. It was one of the worst experiences, not only in my career, but in my life.
And you watched them go win the Super Bowl that year.
Yep, the following year, they won the whole thing, where I was happy for all my teammates that
you
I
were
played
sad
with,
because
but
you
I was
felt like
sad
you wanted to be a
because
part of that.
I wanted to be a part of it.
Right. That put fire in your belly, though, right?
Right, for sure.
So again, another thing I think the listeners and viewers can get from this is, here you are, you had failure again, right? Made a mistake. You have failure. You didn't quit. You know what? You picked up the pieces. We were talking about in the car, most people that are successful in life, they all have failure. You know, that second generation money, nothing against you guys out there, but I'm going to say something against you guys out there. When things are handed to you, you don't know how to walk through swamps. You don't know how to deal with storms. You don't know how to come over any kind of adversity. You're weak and your legs are soft, and you will struggle if things happen. But for those of us that deal with real problems every day and have to go out and grind and earn it, like yourself, Matt, when we make mistakes, we're human. What we do with that mistakes is the game breaker. And both these times already in this conversation, you have shared for everybody 2 times where most people, 93% of people, I believe, would be like, all right, they would quit on themselves. They would take the path of least resistance. You owned your shit and said, you know what, I'm going to do better. This is a me problem. And you grind, and you use that work ethic you got from your pops, and you used that determination and competitiveness and hunger to be successful in your soul to continue to get through this. And you go to Detroit, and you've been here 6 years. And you've been doing great things. I mean, I always feel good if it's a game winner. I know Matt's got it. I'm like, he's got it. Or if it's a tie, he's got it. I haven't felt that way since Hansen days, right? And earlier Hansen days, late days was similar, but you know, earlier it was like automatic. And I think the team here, talk about being here in Detroit. What's that like? I know how much you love it, but share with people what the feeling is when you're here in Detroit.
Man, just blue collar city, and our team is taking on the same identity. With the city, you know, the thing I love most about being here in Michigan is by far the people. We've made met some of the best people ever. Love the people in Michigan. And as far as the team, like, you know, I get last year, our record didn't show how good we are, but there's a special feeling. Like our team, we don't need to talk about it, but we have a confidence. We all expect big things this year. And like, for me personally, the one thing left is to get a ring, and I know we can do that here in Detroit. Hopefully it's sooner than later, but we're excited going into the season. As long as we're playing, we'll see what happens with COVID and whatnot, but like I said, there's a special feeling in this like our team in 2013, going into the season, you almost knew every week you were going to win.
And that was the Super Bowl team, so you knew every week you had that feeling.
Right.
You have similar feelings now.
I honestly feel that with our team going into the season. I feel very confident.
Everybody's laser focused.
Right. Everything. It's different this year where everything was on Zoom and virtually, doing everything, which is a first for me. But it's almost like you can just have a sense of confidence in the on the computer.
Like the team's
screen.
pissed. They're ready to step up. They're tired of last year's mess. What happened with injuries and everything else? They're hungry.
Right. And we know that we're not a 2-14 team or 2-13-1 or whatever it was. We're not that team, and we expect to win every game. There's no point of showing up if you don't think you're going to win. And I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited to get back in the building, see everyone's faces in person, and just get back on the grind with everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think this is going to be a good year for you guys. I think that when you don't do flashy signings and you just build and no shout out there to the players we got, but when you build B players and you build depth in the bench and you build good players, you don't need some super charismatic drama A player. I think, in my opinion, what do I know? I think a team's always gelling a lot better. So thank you for sharing that stuff. Last but not least, let's talk about this. You said the biggest thing left for you to do in your career is win the Super Bowl. You've got an AFC championship ring. You don't have an NFC championship ring, so you get that and go to the Super Bowl, be Golden Nuggets. Let's talk about, share one thing people don't know about Matt Prater.
Oh, man.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I had to save a tough one for you. Not ready.
Oh, man. People don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm boring, just a simple dude, or I can smoke you in Madden.
You can smoke me in Madden.
No, I don't know. I like gaming, but spend time with the fam, obviously. I love to fish. Maybe that's something people don't know.
And you were a great baseball player in high school.
Yeah, that was my dream always as a kid growing up. I wanted to play baseball, so I settled for kicking the ball. But
and you do that well.
I try. I think, like I was telling you, when I'm done playing, I think I'm going to join one of those baseball leagues and just see if I can pick it up and play again.
Yeah, I think when someone loves baseball, it never goes away. All right, so Matt, one other thing. Let me ask you this. You play in these games, and I know you're very passionate about winning. Everybody knows, look, obviously the most important thing when you go out there is to win as a team, and you say that every time. You'd rather not attempt any kicks or miss them all as long as you win. You've gone on record saying that. I get that. But what other part is your favorite part of the games?
By far, my favorite part is just in pregame, especially home games, where I get to bring my wife and my kids down to the field. And every game, my son and oldest daughter, my 2-year-old tries, but she's not as good, obviously. But I get to bring them down the field, and they kick into the net, hang out, and they get to talk to the Ford family. Like Mrs. Ford, Martha loves packs. She calls them his good luck charms. So that's my favorite part of the game, is actually pregame, when I get to bring my family down in the field and kind of share the experience with them and let them on the field and see how, be up close and personal with everybody.
And they've been down there so many times and love it every single time. Right. It's not like it's boring to them. They love it every time, and that's what's really cool.
They're part of my routine now, which is special.
Yeah, routine is very important. What advice, what knowledge would you give out to the listeners out there? We talked about failures equals success. What would you say to people out there about that?
I would just say, all of my personal failures, I can only point the finger in the mirror. It's always been all on me. For any screw-ups or failures I've had, has always been on me. And I've always had, understood that when things are going well, especially as a team, you point fingers at everyone else and, just congratulate them and, thank them for how great of a job and what they're doing to help the team be successful. But when things aren't going well and you're not successful, you point the finger at yourself or right in the mirror. Like I said, it's always on you to do the best you can to help the team. But when things aren't going well, look in the mirror first and foremost.
I love that, and I think that's so important that people own it, because you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you're doing. And if you're failing, you have to fix whatever you're doing to be different. You have to own that. And I think your story today has really shared, when you fail, you looked in the mirror, you stepped up, you used it as motivation, not as a distraction to change your path or change your map or quit, but you actually used it as motivation to really change everything you're doing. So thank you for sharing that. Well, listen, Matt, I appreciate you sharing your stories today, and listeners out there, hopefully you got to hear and see, Matt Prater, NFL record holder, 64-yard field goal kick, Detroit Lions all-pro kicker. He's the man. He shares his story. It was personalized. He got to tell you how he's overcome adversity, how he was an underdog at times, and he had to step up and really dig deep and use those failures as motivation. I think that's important for people to resonate with, whether it be in family, whether it be in relationship, whether it be in business, whether it be in sports. And I'll share something people don't know. Like, you are a super dad. I mean, I consider myself a pretty good dad, but like, I'm like, damn, he's outside with his kids again. I'm bad. I got to get outside. You play with your kids, so people know this, more than anyone I've ever seen. So you need to really hang your hat up on that. You're a really super dad. I think you should be proud of yourself for that. If you're not, I see how you play with your kids and how much you love your kids. I think that's important. And I'd like the listeners to know that part of you that I see being your neighbor and your buddy. But again, thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Hopefully on today's message, overcoming adversity, being an underdog, and really getting, failures lead to success. We have to fail. Matt said it best. He learns from his failures. Many of us do. Make sure you join. You go to trueunderdog.com. You follow our podcast, True Underdog. It's a badass podcast. Check us out on iHeartRadio, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And we'll till next time. Bam!
True Underdog.